The last several weeks, we've been diving into so many different topics, but today, we're beginning a new series with the goal to give you the elements required to have victory over war. Not a war against each other, not a war for land or dominance or opulence, but a war for good. Living out lives of men and women of courage. Not surrendering or submitting or being afraid of the battles that come our way, but fighting to hold onto what is good, true, and right. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, maybe you haven't lived long enough, but life is full of battles. I came to realize that at a very young age, you have to fight for the things you want in life. It doesn't just happen to you. And so many things in your life are going to interject, are going to try to take from the very life that's been given to you and submit you and make you into a slave to your battles, not a warrior winning a war. But wouldn't it be great if, although we don't know the kind of battles that we are going to face in the future, although we don't know what the outcome of our battle will be, if we are prepared with tools, with elements that help us prepare in who we are today. I think that's what's so important about looking into our character, looking into who we are, because what you are made up of is revealed under battle. That despite what kind of mysteries are up ahead, the initiative that you take, the responsibility that you make yours, is to garner elements and tools and weapons to have victory in war. Who here is a warrior? Who here is claiming to be free? Who here has said, no matter what comes my way, I am going to live out the life that God has called me to live? If that's you, then there are elements in your life that you must develop for success. Now, when we think about battles, we always think of that one person who is courageous. If you've seen Braveheart, there's this figure. If you've seen any historic or heroic story, rather, then you've seen a character that exceeds the expectation of courage. Have you ever met a person like that is courageous no matter what? And then there's the rest of us that we wish we were that person. I'm with you, but not next to you. I'm gonna watch what happens to you first, and then I'm jumping in. See, I think a lot of us, we want courage, but I, for one, am not a person that courage comes easily to. I think that I'm of the genetic makeup that has an extra dose of fear in it. I think when God was making me, he said, well, let's put some extra fear into this guy. Because I am somebody who has always struggled with fear. The earliest childhood memories that I have are actually attached to being afraid. And I have parents that love me and that are incredible human beings. If you ever get to meet them, man, they will blow your mind. One, because somehow they speak English even without speaking English. And two, because they are courageous people. And they gave me the power and the tool to learn how to silence fear. The earliest memory I have of being afraid was my mom telling me that perfect love will cast out all fears. And she gave me the tool and the identity of overcoming fear. But you know what I realized? That even though I had the power to silence fear for most of my life, I still wasn't courageous. Because courage is not an absence of fear. Courage is an absence of self. Now, I know I just said that and I hyped you up and you think we're going to talk about courage, but we're not. Because there's a prerequisite. There is a precursor, an element drawn out from the materials that create a courageous life that we need to look at, an element that you need in battle that will unlock courage in your future. an ingredient essential for not just winning a battle, but coming out better. Integrity. Integrity is unattractive. You don't talk about integrity on Sunday mornings. You talk about courage and ferocity and power. But integrity is really a hard sell. It's not the most attractive. It's not the most desired. After all, we have so many examples of people of great success that we would deem to be great at what they do, who have garnered fame, money, success, everything that we want in life, and done it without integrity. See, sometimes integrity seems more like a liability or a disadvantage in the race of life than an additive. Have you ever felt like that? Like, if I just cheat a little bit in this test, I'm gonna get an A. Somehow I would cheat in high school and still get D's. I don't know what happened. But integrity is so difficult for us. And in a space where there are so many elements to choose from, integrity can be so easily overlooked. Yet, without integrity, we will not have the resilience. We will not have the encouragement to live a life of courage or handle the pressures of life, let alone the pressures of battle. And integrity is a fascinating word. It comes from the origin Latin word integer, which means whole, indivisible, complete. And in math, when you look at such numbers, you might stumble upon a prime number, a number like 7, that can only be divided by itself, a distinguished kind of number that is different from 5 and 6, whole, complete, can only be divided by itself. So curiously, both integrity and wholeness have a connection with each other because both of them relate to our need for integration in our lives. Have you ever felt like you were disintegrated? That things are just not connecting together? That there is something broken inside of you? Have you ever felt like that? See, if you are in a plane 40,000 feet up in the air, and you get notified that the plane has lost integrity, you might as well send your last text message home because you will not make it. At 40,000 feet up in the air, the pressure of the atmosphere will have the integrity of the plane lost, and the pressure, what it's going to do is crush the interior of the plane and everyone in it and then explode. Which explains why my dear friend Kevlin kisses the ground of an airplane when they land. Whoa. So embarrassing. He cheers. He doesn't know public decency. They land and he goes, "We made it!" If he could hug the pilot, he would. It's true, isn't it? Yeah, I thought so. The shit. Have you ever wondered how metal floats, but you can't? If the integrity of a ship, the whole of the integrity is compromised, then in a matter of minutes, maybe a matter of seconds, the weight of the vast ocean will pressurize the ship and crush it like foil. If a building is built upon a foundation that is built without integrity, then it is only a matter of time before the building collapses. It is the lack of integrity which why a human being would step into a school and take the lives of the innocent. We have so many examples of what happens when integrity is lost, but we rarely realize that what our souls are searching for, that which we are longing to find is missing because of the lack of integration of our souls. And someone that carries this journey beautifully in the scriptures is David. If you know anything about David, you may know this particular moment in his life. And David is an interesting character to think about when it comes to integrity. Because David is not faultless. He's not falseless. And what this teaches us about integrity is that to have integrity is not being faultless, it's about being falseless. And what's interesting about David is that he makes terrible decisions, horrible choices, and in many moments in his life falls apart because of the lack of integrity of his character. So integrity is not about being perfect. It's about discovering your intention. Who here knows their intention? I didn't think you would answer because you're very quiet and you're paying a lot of attention. So there's this moment in the life of David that everyone knows. The moment that everyone talks about in church. The moment that we're taught since little kids. A giant and a tiny little fragile David. But because God was with him, he was able to take down a giant. And then real life happens and we meet giants and we go, yeah, no, this couldn't have been real because this is no way, right? There's this moment in the life of David where he is tending sheep. I want to remind you that tending sheep is not the most attractive thing in the world. I know today in the Christian culture, we tend to glorify things that were never meant to be pretty. This is not pretty. His job was that when sheep would throw feces at each other, they don't have hands, but they figure it out, that he would scrape it off of their wool. His job was to ensure that the sheep, who are sometimes mindless and most of the time a liability to take care of, would stay safe. He had a job that was not for kings, not considered for noble men, but for shepherd boys. Have you looked at someone and been like, you look like a shepherd boy? AKA, you don't look like an alpha, you look like a beta. Tend my sheep. You know, like, so disrespectful. But this is his context. And his brothers, they're called to war. They are warriors. They're handsome, they're tall, they're strong. They are serving the king in a moment that is, for them, what they thought their moment of greatness. And they're at the battle lines against the Philistines, and the Philistines have an idea. Let's have our greatest warrior, our champion, fight yours. You know the story? Oh, you're lying because you said nothing. You're paying so much attention. He said I watch VeggieTales. Oh boy. This might be better than VeggieTales, but you get the idea. There were no asparagus in the real story. There was a tomato, but he didn't talk. Where were we? Thanks, Tony. God, guys. Where were we? So the Philistine army thought, our greatest warrior against yours, and whoever wins, whoever represents our country, and if they beat your champion, we take over and occupy your land. And the Israelites thought that this was a great idea until they saw Goliath, a man whose shadow was bigger than expected. A man who was about 9 foot tall, maybe 8 with heels, I don't know. I wasn't there. Considered a giant, and when they saw this giant, they trembled. Their equilibrium was offset at the footsteps because he walked with such dominance that the earth would shake, not because it was shaking, but boy, were they afraid. And here comes shepherd boy David, the original Uber Eats, to deliver some grilled cheese sandwiches to his brothers. And he shows up in this moment for no other reason than to deliver. And his brothers look at him and think he is out of place. Wrong time, wrong place, wrong purpose, wrong person. All you're doing is supposed to be our DoorDash. But I love this because he shows up and he sees the giant that is terrifying a nation, And his first response is actually a question. What are you going to do about it? Who is this guy? Which no one was stepping up to face. His brothers, they were there, but quiet. You ever know those people that are all talk? Yeah, let's do something great. We're going to be with you. Like originally, in the beginning of this talk. And then they go, but first you go ahead, and then we'll see if we're actually going to be with you. This is them in this moment. And they're afraid. And Goliath was mocking them because they had lost their integrity. And so, of course, the brothers aren't showing up. The king's not showing up. No one is stepping up. And so David says, I'll take care of it. And of course, his brothers, with such conviction and such feeling of, who are you? So young. Yes, you're handsome and you got great hair and you're wearing flannel. What? It is 97 degrees outside, but there's never a wrong time to wear something that is not appropriate for the season. The only amen I get was in a joke. People, I'm spitting fire here. You better be paying attention. You are. I'm kidding. You're all taking notes. I love that. So they won't step up, and so they challenge his motives. You're just here because you want to be nosy. Isn't that funny that when you try to do something great in your life, where you're stepping up to something that other people will not, they criticize you? And they criticize you not because they don't believe in your ability, but because they're trying to project their fear onto your life. Oh, and by the way, I think that's a lot of us. We're being asked to step up to the challenge, but the people that surround us, the voices that speak into our lives, are projecting their fear for us, and we never step into the battle that was meant for you. So he's here in this moment. He says, I'm not here because I wanted to outshine you, brothers. I was here to deliver grilled cheese. There was no such thing as grilled before. I'm just saying it's a metaphor, okay? All right, it's cheese. I got it, whatever. One, oh my God, be more literal. Stop it. And so David says, no, I just think somebody should kill the giant. But I love this. Because nobody wanted him to volunteer. But here in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 34, he goes and volunteers, and he says this to King Saul. 1 Samuel 17:34. But David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. That's his resume. I've been keeping my father's sheep. You know when you want to impress somebody, a first impression, you say the best thing you've done ever? Even if it was like 30 years ago. I sold a company for $30 million. Oh my God, when was that? Before I went bankrupt in 2008. Oh well. But here he starts with what is not favored in that culture. Because what he was trying to initiate was not, look at how great I am, but look at how serviceable and how much integrity I've had. You cannot be trusted in battle if you do not have integrity to keep your word. A lot of us struggle with keeping our word. And we wonder why we go into battle alone. Where did that come from? Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, like all of us. We run after lions. I remember going to the Everglades Estates because when you're new to the country, you gotta go see alligators. I don't know. And I was in the Everglades Estates and there was lions in cages. And I, as a 7 or 8 year old, was running around and I didn't know there was lions in cages. And I got a little too close to a lion. They're very big. And it jumped at the actual gate that was between me and it. And they didn't have any like clear, they just had a cage that a dog could go through. Don't go to the Everglades. Stop doing that. I nearly got clawed by a lion. Man, that would have been cool. A scar right here. I fought lions before. I lost, but I made it. Wow. That's disrespectful, Kara. We'll talk about it after. I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by the hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine, not a compliment, will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The reason why integrity is so important is because it reveals your intention. If your reason to step into battle is simply for yourself and not for a calling that God has for you, you will fight the battles that will not transform your lives and other people's lives. You will just fight battles to survive. To fight the armies of the living God, the Lord who rescued me from the paw, I hate that translation, the claw of the lion and the claw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. David says, I've done this before. For no other reason than I was entrusted with the care of my father's sheep. And I love Saul, his honesty. So Saul said to David, go. May the Lord be with you, because we will not be with you. So now in this moment, David is thinking, I prepared when no one was watching for a moment that everyone will see. I love this. David's resume was what he did when no one was looking. David's resume was what he said when no one was listening. David's resume was to do what was right for no other reason than he was entrusted. What you do that is hidden will reveal who you are in the battle. He didn't do it so that he would pretend to be seen as someone he is not. He did it because it was right. He did it because of integrity. And this story unwraps beautifully backwards. In 1 Samuel chapter 16, it goes deeper and tells us that what he did in the secret would form and inform him for what he would do in public. So in 1 Samuel chapter 16, Samuel the priest is looking for the next king. God has given him word that someone is going to take of this mantle. And he's looking for someone who has integrity of heart. In some ways, somehow, he hears the voice of God speak to him and tells him to go to a specific home. Now, I know that sounds mystical. It sounds magical. It sounds ethereal, but I can promise you this, that when your frequency is tuned into the voice of God, then the tone of God is quite distinguished from your own voice. In certain situations, God will speak to you and tell you to go in certain places that people will think you are crazy. That's how we are here. But there is a frequency, there's a tone of God speaking into your life, and sometimes he will take you to the most mysterious of places. And you will not see what God is trying to do in your life if all you can hear is yourself. So he hears God, and he goes looking for the next king. So in 1 Samuel chapter 6, verse 16, verse 6, it says, 16:6, when they arrived, Samuel saw Eliab and thought, surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Then Jesse called Abinadab and had him pass in front of Samuel. But Samuel said, the Lord has not chosen this one either. Jesse had Shammah pass by, but Samuel said, nor has the Lord chosen this one. Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to him, the Lord has not chosen these. So Jesse goes through all the sons that he thought were honorable. He goes through all the sons that he thought were chasing greatness, the ones who looked and fit the part in the description of what he thought. All of his sons that would qualify for the calling of a lifetime. But he asked Jesse, "Are these all your sons?" Which is very telling about a father. Could you imagine? You have 7 sons, and it's not like you forgot one. You just prefer 6 out of the 7. I mean, at least if your kid doesn't meet the expectation, you put him in line. You don't neglect him. Here are my 7 sons. I don't think he forgot. Because I know the Betals, and they've got 6, and they remember every single one of them, right? I think so. Back in the day, people used to think I was part of the Betal family. And one of their sons is Josh. And, we're surrounded by a lot of white old people, so every person that looked like me was part of the Betal family. "Hey, Josh! So I finally turned around and I said, Juan! Josh is in Australia! You don't forget your youngest, except if what you think of them is not much. But I love this. Jesse answers, they're still the youngest. He is tending the sheep. Samuel said, "Send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives." Samuel honors David by not letting anyone sit down until he arrives. There's something there that we're going to explore a different week. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 2, it says, "So he sent for him and had him brought in. He was glowing with health and had a fine appearance and handsome features. Then the Lord said, 'Rise and anoint him. This is the one.'" See, I know that this is so true to the human experience. So many times we're pulled into the heroic narrative that our lives should count. I know inside each and every single one of you there is a longing to do something that matters, to not be insignificant, to not be incidental. I know inside of every human heart there is a desire to be chosen. And here, we're told that God never chooses by what we seem like in our exterior, but who we are within our hearts. This is what guides the kind of battles God will ask you to step into. We want to be chosen by someone. By God. Your soul, your heart. That is what matters. In Psalms chapter 78, verse 70, it reads, "He chose David his servant and took him from the sheep pens. From tending the sheep, he brought him to be the shepherd of his people Jacob, of Israel, his inheritance." See, God knew that David could be trusted with people because he could first be trusted with sheep. He knew that he would risk his life for the people that he would vow to serve and to lead, because he would risk his life against a lion and a bear when no one was watching for sheep that are expendable. He thought that sheep mattered, the things that nobody thought matters. He thought that it mattered with everything, not because he would gain something from it, but because it was right, because it was what was entrusted to him. And so if God can trust you with things where you get no praise for, then God will be able to entrust you in the places, in the spaces where people will cheer you on. A lot of times the reason why we cheer people on is because we see the result of hours of hard work. But God is not invested in the 1 minute or hour that you speak to that person. God is invested in the 24/7 of who you are. A battle mate is not one that shows up from time to time. You want to know who to do battle with? Watch them when no one else is. Listen to them when their reputation is not on the line. Who are you when your reputation is only for close friends and family? What a way to start a series. I'll leave, like power and strength for all the other people's. But this one convicted me because I was never chosen. It might surprise you, but I was not white enough. 2 minutes. I was just not the expectation. I remember being told that. I know what it feels, but it didn't matter. Because what matters is who God says you are. And if you believe who God says you are, then the integrity of your soul is not in question. Amen? Amen. We're not done. I can't leave you without something ethereal to think about. Verse 72, and David shepherded them with integrity of heart, faultless, with skillful hands, he led them. By the way, I hopefully, if we're still doing a series in November, I do want to talk about skill, because I think skill is very important. But it doesn't matter how skillful you are if you have no integrity. Up here in the platform, we do not need skillful people. We need people who have integrity and are willing to work at their skill. God does not choose you for your skill. He chooses you for your heart. So the characteristics and qualifications that God looks for in a person is someone whose heart is pure towards him and to others. So what does this mean? What does integrity mean? It means everything. Because who you are in the secret is revealed in the public pressure. Your battles will bring so much pressure to you. And you do not want to fold at the first sight of trouble. If you want to be strong, if you want to be courageous, if you want to handle the pressure, then integrity is required. So what are the hidden battles that you are fighting? What are the battles inside your mind? There tends to be a battle that we don't talk about a lot, which is gossip. Nothing is more telling about the level of integrity of your soul than how you talk about people behind their back. What are the hidden battles? What are the thoughts that you think? Who are you truly? Who are you when you're not seen? Because humans have a distinct ability. We are a species that can choose to have no integrity. We really are spectacular. We are the only species that can choose to... Oh, that might have been a political statement. We have a unique ability. And the reason why we can choose to live a life with no integrity is because of love. A God who loves us gives us freedom of choice in who we choose to be. But I want you to remember this as we head into this portion. Important. Integrity is not about being faultless. It's about being falseless. And many times who you truly are is buried by who you want other people to see. But God calls us into integrity. As a matter of fact, almost everything in the universe has integrity. I'll prove it to you. This is not a mango. This is an orange. It's orange, and it's an orange. It is what it says it is. Now, maybe if you're a skeptic, there might be a watermelon in here, I don't know. I don't trust the government. They're selling me eggs inside of... Go outside. It tastes like the skin of an orange. It feels like an orange, but I know. Hold on, I know. There might be something else inside of it. I know. So to prove it, Kathleen, I need you. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
Let's do it.
Right now?
Right now. Kathleen, is this an orange?
Yeah, that's an orange.
Do you think it's an orange?
No. I know it's an orange.
Oh, I love that. Can you hold that? Just in case, Kathleen, They think I'm pulling a magic trick. I want you to place it right here on that cutting board. Do you know how to cut, sir? Can you please open that up for me? Not your finger. Okay. Now show the crowd. It's an orange. Can you do me a favor? Can you taste if it's an orange? No, well, oh God, what's wrong with you, dude? You can cut it. Whatever, dude. Do whatever Puerto Ricans do. I don't know. Go ahead. All right. Go for it. No, I need you to bite it because it might be chocolate. It's definitely an orange. Oh, thank you, Kevin. Good job. Can we give a round of applause for Kevin? You can keep the orange. I know. Things have integrity in the universe. You would not believe this, but my dog Chip, he's a dog. And there's no occasion where he wakes up one day and goes, I'm sick of this. Could you imagine? You don't feed me enough. And grabs my keys, opens my car, and drives to work. He does not care about clothes, currency, or public decency. He'll take a dump anywhere he chooses, except where I tell him not to. Birds. They're not robots. They're birds. They fly like birds. They do what God created them to do and be. They have integrity. Somehow they know what to do because they live how they were created to live. Somehow everything in the universe, including the solar system, works in the rhythm of God's voice because it knows what it is. It's got integrity. The reason why we don't spin out of control is because the universe has integrity. Yet somehow, humans, we have this innate ability to relinquish the integrity of our soul because we choose to live lives that are not the lives that God called us to live. And one of the biggest issues is that we will pretend to be someone we're not, meaning that we will fight somebody else's battles and call those victories our own. You will not enter into battle for the sake of fighting. The reason why you enter into battle is for the growth of character. You will not grow in your character if the battles you face and the battles you fight are not yours. Somehow, our species is the only one that relinquishes what they were supposed to be. Because we can say we're really kind. We can say we're good, but then when we're under a situation that feels like the integrity of a plane being lost, aka Thanksgiving, we actually end up being who we really are. Because nobody pulls ourselves out of ourselves more than family. Am I right? Bunch of liars. All right, it's fine. It's fine. I didn't know your mom was friggin' Mary. That's fine. Joseph, where he's at? I don't see him. All right. I don't know about you, but my family really knows what to say to get me going. As a matter of fact, my dad used to do it on purpose. Dad, what's wrong with you? He used to do it on purpose to test my character, which might do with Audrey, I don't know. See how she responds, but my dad thought that it was so important to squeeze every bit of who I am out. Because there's a tendency in church to be someone we're not, to be accepted. Who does your family think you are? The anointing of the music has entered the space. Like I told you last week, God does call you to be free. God calls you to be whole. Who you were designed and created to be. Do not relinquish the power of being who God says you are. Hold onto integrity, because there is a brokenness within ourselves, something that shouldn't be able to be divided and taken and stripped off. God calls us His. He calls us sons and daughters. He sees us with the eyes of a father. I cannot imagine my baby girl doing something wrong, but I know one day she will, and she'll break my heart. I'm anticipating it already. But that will not change that she is loved. That will not change that she's got a purpose and a calling. You were designed and created to be connected to the one thing that would make you whole. The integrity of your soul is what will make you ready for any war. Because who will come out of you is who God says you're supposed to be. Courageous, strong, merciful, compassionate, forgiving, resilient. Who you are is who God says you are. So stop being something you're not. Silence fear with love. Step into courage by extracting yourself and thinking of others. Take on integrity. Be the person that you're supposed to be, not for the sake of other people's approval, but because you were designed to be so. Will you stand with me this morning? I'm excited for this series. Only one woo. I got one.
Yeah.
And the reason I got one, God, you just smacked us in the face. Integrity is essential. And today we're going to do something really special that happened last minute. We're going to do baptisms. I hope you applaud for that. Okay. I want you to take away, because this might be the last time I talk here for at least 30 days. This, and when I come back, I'm going to ask you, what makes us whole? You got it right? Finally, someone who responds. Let's go. I don't know what happened to us. We became Baptist. We don't say nothing, or Catholic. I don't know. We used to have fun at church. When God calls you free, oh, I am free.
Amen.
When God calls you to courage, I will have courage. That's why we serve coffee over there, so you wouldn't fall asleep. But beside all that, what matters the most is that God will make you whole. And Angel, I want to ask you to step over here. Can we give a round of applause for Angel?